Good hello friends, my name is Mel and welcome back to my channel. It is time to wrap up 2022. I am so excited for this year to be over and to start on some new goals. So I've got my reading tracker right behind me. You can't really see it, but I'll show it to you in just a second. And we are going to talk about all of the statistics from this past year. So if you've been following along with what this last year has looked like for me, I finished my grad program at USC, so I officially have my master's in public relations and advertising, which is super exciting. I'm so happy to be done with my degree. I also got a really great job working in the video games industry, and I actually just got my first promotion just before the year ended, so I'll be starting 2023 with a big girl job, big girl salary, and I'm so excited. But with all of those amazing life updates, reading did end up taking kind of a back burner. However, I definitely think that this year was the year that I refocused reading back into my life and made it more of a priority. Something that I found really difficult in 2021 was just the fact that I did not prioritize reading enough. I had moved into an apartment with a bunch of friends and then subsequently moved out. A lot of things had changed in my life, and it was really important for me to learn that balance in 2022, which I think I did really well. Granted, I did set my Goodreads reading goal for 40 books, and this year I ended up hitting 30. I'm not mad at that at all. Once I actually took a look at my reading spreadsheet, I was dumbfounded at how much audiobooks and romance books saved my reading this year. So without further ado, let's get into the stats. In 2022, I read a whopping 3,745 pages. That is the lowest I have ever read physically. I listened to 190 hours of audiobooks. 190 hours. Something I want to preface is driving to USC from the apartment that I lived at. It wasn't far, but it took an hour to get there and an hour back. It's the same for my parents' house. So regardless of where I was driving 2 hours almost daily. A lot of those audiobook hours come from sitting in the car. I guess it kind of was the lesser of two evils, if you will. I was able to listen to so many books while driving, and I think it helped make those drives a lot more productive and make me feel a lot better about being on these drives. Granted, I would also loop in music. You know, I wasn't always in the mood to read, or I just didn't have an audiobook that I wanted to listen to at the time. I'm actually really proud that 190 hours of this year was spent reading. I might just try to bump that up next year because audiobooks truly saved my reading, especially when there were books that I didn't necessarily love. If we take a look at these genres that I read, romance was 53%. I'm gonna say that again, 53%. 15 out of the 30-ish books that I read were romance novels. I don't know when that happened. I don't know why it happened, but I'm not mad about it because I discovered some authors that are instant reads. I love them so much and I'm so excited to keep reading from them, so I'm not mad about it. Surprisingly, nonfiction was one of my top genres this year. Something I didn't realize was that with a lot of my academic reading counting towards my book goals, I actually ended up reading so many more nonfiction books. I read 4 nonfiction books to be exact, and I'm really happy with that. Like, I don't think I would have ever seen myself reading more nonfiction. I think I'm gonna try to make that part of my regular reading. The next genre that was in the top was contemporary, and this is kind of a generalized term for this because I classified books like Normal People as a contemporary novel. It's technically considered lit fic, but like, you know, it's in the contemporary world. It makes sense to me. I don't classify romance as contemporary, like as a subgenre. Romance is romance, contemporary is contemporary. I don't really let them overlap too much. So there's that, but that's just a nuance that I have. 60% of my books were audiobooks, 26% were physical, and 13% were ebooks. So I think I had a pretty good balance in terms of what I knew I was capable of. So I'm pretty proud of this split, and considering the fact that like 50% or 60% of the books were audio, the other two could have been balanced a little bit more, especially because I do have the goal of finishing a massive chunk of my physical TBR, especially this year. I've done a lot better about it since I moved back home and had my full library in front of me. And finally, in terms of ratings, it was a strange year. I only had 2 5 stars. One of them was a novella and the other is a new all-time favorite novel. I only had 2 5 stars of the 30 books that I read. The rest were 4 stars. I even have 1 2-star that we'll talk about in just a minute. But I feel like this year was like solid. I wouldn't say subpar. I read a ton more 5-star books in the past, so I think because of those little discrepancies and me understanding my reading taste and the works, I was able to really figure out what books were my 5-star books, what really left me with an emotional impact, and then what was just shy of that 5-star rating that got a 4.5. Which, mind you, 5 books out of the 30 got a 4.5 rating. So I'm not mad. I feel like that's like the theme. Like, I'm not mad about how my reading went this year at all. Do I wish it could have been a little bit better? Sure. So another thing that I find really funny is the pattern of my reading, in that a lot of my reading happened in the latter half of the year. Clearly my spring semester at USC was a lot, as well as my full-time job at the time. I didn't get much reading done as I think I wanted to, considering the fact that I only read 5 books in the first 2 months of the year. Then summer happened. I feel like from May to July, I was doing so much in my personal life. I was just having a good time and like going out and just living that I didn't really want to read. I was watching a lot of TV shows, I was watching a lot of movies, and I was totally okay with that. I think something that happens a lot of the time when you are creating these bookish goals is there's a lot of pressure, and I think about it to myself, I'm like, I want time to do other things in my life. I have a PlayStation, I have a Switch, I want to play those games. I, again, have a full-time job. Like, there are other priorities that come up. I go to the gym every single day. That is an hour to 2 hours that I will carve out every single day to make sure that that is something that I prioritize. So in the same way, I just wasn't prioritizing reading. There were other things that wanted to take up that space, and that's okay. Something that I do find really funny is that from September to December, I listened and read to more books than I did the entire year. And I think, again, that comes from me driving to school every single day from September to December. It was so much fun. But I did listen to a lot of really great books. So let's go ahead and jump into my least favorite book and top book of the year. Starting with The Anomaly by Michael Recker. This is the first book in the Anomaly files. I got this from Book of the Month in June of 2018, and I hated this book. I gave it a 2-star. I don't even think it deserves that much, but I did an entire reading vlog where I legitimately hate read it. I hate read this book. I haven't done that in years. I don't think I literally have done this since 2019. I'm gonna go ahead and just link the reading vlog to that, and you get to go check out the love that I had for this book. It's promptly being unhauled. As for my top book of the year and a new all-time favorite that has to go to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, I adored this book with every fiber of my being. You can see I got her tabbed up. I have an entire reading vlog. I loved this book so much. I'm gonna go ahead and link the reading vlog to this as well. If you haven't picked up Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, I highly suggest that you do. It has such an emotional impact on my life. And as you'll see in the reading vlog, I do say that this book was made for me in the specific time that I was reading it. So I definitely have a really personal connection to the story and to the characters. So if that's not it for you, that's totally okay. But I definitely think that you should at least give this a try. So that is it. Those are the reading stats for this year. I feel like this is going to be one of my quicker videos in terms of like wrapping things up. I am really proud of my reading this year, and even though I only read 30 books, I'm in the middle of 2 right now. Even though I only read those 30 books, I am so proud that I was able to refocus and bring reading back into my life. I'm able to make bookish videos again and just think about the things that are important to me. So the next time you'll see me, we'll talk a little bit more about some goals for the next year, how I'm planning on structuring my reading, and some exciting little tidbits here and there. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for following me along for 2022, and I'm so excited for 2023. Until then, I'll see you soon.